Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Chaz Draycott Media and welcome to Season 5 of the sim racing magazine GT4 Challenge. It's an absolute delight to be back for this championship once again, popular as ever, and boy have we got a new campaign for you. This is looking like an absolute scream of a championship already, and it's only been about 25 minutes of practice that have put all of the times together and shown us how close this is going to be. Quick apologies for the issues with it going live on YouTube. For some reason the link between Restream and YouTube was not working, so the feed has gone straight to YouTube and not on Facebook anymore, so we'll just be going directly here, but hopefully you can see and hear us. But by saying us, it's not of course just me up here in the commentary box, it's Ed May alongside me once again for this season. Ed, it's great to be back, isn't it, mate? And it's come around quite quickly this time, in all honesty.
It really has done, yeah. It's great, obviously, to be back here with the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenger series that holds a very special place in my heart, and I'm sure yours as well, Chaz. It's great to be back, and as well off the back of such a successful special event, wasn't it, where we saw the changeable weather conditions come into effect. We're going to eventually get stuck in to a proper full season of GT4 running. It feels like forever since we've last seen these cars out on the circuit, and I'll tell you what, looking by just some of the times we've seen in practice so far and the quality of driver yet again being improved season upon season, means that season 5 is surely going to be one to remember.
Absolutely is, and if we bring up the timing tower any second now, we will show you the incredible gap from first down to, well, 26th is less than a second back, and in 26th place at the moment is actually Toby Ward, and Toby's quick in himself, to be fair. I mean, Dominic Brennan was just down there a moment ago, but look at that between the top two. 0.02 of a second from this man, Taylor Adams, who joins us in a BMW M4 for this season for Regenta Sim Racing. Thanks again to Regenta Sim Racing for jumping back in. It's great to see them back. We also have the return of Apex Racing Academy as well. Previous teams champions Dan McCauley and Lewis Ward, double champion of this series. Lewis is back once again. We have Simon Povey back with us. Guy Edwards makes a return as well, which is great to see. RD Simsport back out in force for another season. Ben Chalcraft back out on the circuit. He was great fun last season. We've also got Callum Brandt back with us in a McLaren, which is awesome. There's so many brilliant names from seasons gone by that have come back once more, and we've got an interesting balance of performance to think about as well, haven't we, Ed?
We really do. It's going to be intriguing, obviously, to see how that develops over the course of the season. If certain cars are better at certain tracks, I think, anticipate the BMWs being pretty strong around here. Obviously, being based on sort of a roval course, a road oval, the BMWs do tend to stretch their legs a little bit better than the competition, but with the balance of performance, it's difficult to know exactly. What cars also have a little bit more get up and go in a straight line, like you rightly mentioned, Chaz. It is wonderful to have such a sort of fairly even spread across through the field. I think the sort of smallest portion we have is the sort of Aston Martin contingent, and we have, I think, 6 of those here today, which is about a fifth of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not forget last season, the smallest, I was going to say profit margin. Why would I was going to say that? The smallest portion of the grid was actually made up of the Mercedes, and there was only one of them, and it was James Holman. So having this much of a chunk of the field covered by the least popular car is lovely to see. We have our reigning champion back with us as well. It's great to see that we have Nils Kaur back on the grid this season for Satellite Racing. He is actually in the Aston Martin, and so is his teammate as well, which is really cool to see. A pair of them making their way out onto the circuit now. Nils, you'll notice, is running the number 15. Unfortunately, I was a little bit late to the party when it came to changing the car numbers, so you'll see that Lewis Ward, who is a previous double champion of this series, is running the number 1 tonight because he was allocated that number previously and it wasn't changed back over to Nils in time. So that's on me, but it will be right as of next time. We've got Prestanda Nomad with us again this season. I say again, it's their first time they're with us, so shut up, Chaz. It's Tom Stanley and Jamie Pounder, who's going to be pounding around the circuit, I hope. And he is doing the honours for the Aston Martins as well. Bunch of them all together there. There's another Satellite Racing car in the mix, which is Ian Pfeiffer. He's driving the Mercedes this time around. Quite a popular car, the Mercedes. The most popular car in the field. There's 11 of them out on track as part of this season. 6 Aston Martins. I think in terms of BMWs, we've got 10. McLarens, we've got 7. And then in terms of the Porsches, we've got 8. So, yeah, as we said, very even spread. It's going to be interesting to see what the balance of performance does for us. Another new driver to the series for Chicane Online Racing, a teammate this time for Dennis Van Bielen, is Ben Idris Abdullahi, the French driver. He was one of the first drivers to be on the reserve list. The entry list was actually extended to 40 drivers after a little bit of a mix-up here and there. So everybody that signed up in the early doors has gotten in. And I mean, there's so many drivers and teams to look at. We've got the great duo of Stephen Burns and Kyle Ridley back for another championship. They were Win It or Bin It Racing last time, and they said because they didn't win it and they did bin it quite a bit, they're now called Top of the Pops for some reason. I don't have any idea what the reference is, but they're in this sort of BMW Motorsport livery with very, very shiny wheels. Also, one thing to keep an eye on this season is this man, Simon Price. He's running as a privateer. I think he's calling his own entry the Lunchbox Legends, and he's going to be different snacks each week dependent on what part of the world we're racing in. He's got this Wagon Wheels livery on this time round, but he's also shown us that for Watkins Glen, he's got a Watsits livery, but it says Watskins instead. Or Watskins, that's it, Watskins Glen.
Yeah, I think he shared that with the Discord because he wasn't able to make it to the Watkins round. Unfortunately, we aren't able to see that in North Carolina. I'll tell you what, it is a very impressive livery that he's been able to put on. I wonder if he spends as much time putting the liveries on the cars as he does practicing. We'll see, obviously, if the times do tell the story or not, as we are getting the first qualifying laps come through now. And it is Taylor Adams for Regenta Sim Racing, who is the pick of the bunch in, well, provisional pole position, but he's helping his teammate out, so he won't be looking to improve. He's instead trying to help out his teammate in behind. Going to see what lap times Regenta can do. That was Matt Slight just getting up ahead of him. Obviously, teamwork is so important around here. You can see them all going sort of almost in 2x2 or 3x3, as they are essentially just using every little bit of slipstream to their advantage. And on circuits like this, it does make all of the difference in the world. I remember having a teammate of mine, Andy Hopley, in the first season of the Sim Race Magazine GT4 Challenge, and that was the reason why we were able to get so many good sort of qualifying performances that then translated the race, because we were able to work together and slipstream one another. And I think around here in these GT4 cars, because they don't have necessarily the biggest amount of grunt possible, they do gain a lot in the slipstream.
Matt Slight goes fastest. We saw him getting slipstream off his teammate just a moment ago. We have the two Apex Racing Academy AMGs on our screen right now. Gorgeous looking machines. Very, very cool livery on these cars. And Dan and Lewis working together once again this season. We actually tested this circuit together, did Dan and I, with our friend Jack Werrell, fellow commentator as well, and we had an absolute riot around here. It's so much fun to drive on this layout. But look how close it is there on the left-hand side again. If we look at Dominic Brennan in 24th position, he's only 1.4 seconds off. He's back in the BMW. Spontex CDM Esports back again with Simon Povey and Dominic Brennan teaming up. Simon this time in the Mercedes. But it's some of the new boys doing well. We've got Jake Cranstone with us as well this season, by the way. Jake, almost champion in the Formula One World Championship here on CDM as well. And he was the champion in the British Boring Car Championship on my channel as well. And Jake is certainly a fast peddler. And it's good to see the Porsches back up at the sharp end. Get it? With three of them inside the top six right now. Rob Sharp, one of them. We've got the BMWs up there and Aston Martins. It's incredible, this, compared to what we saw last season. Completely different cars at the sharp end. Awesome to see. As the Mercedes both come across the line now, Dan McCauley goes third fastest, 0.16 of a second off the top spot, just ahead of Ayrton Williams. But look at that, in terms of the newcomers, we've got Daniel Parron-Smith second, Ayrton Williams, Jake Cranstone seventh, Ian Pfeiffer in ninth, Toby Johns up there in 10th place. Great stuff from Toby at the moment. It's absolutely flying. It's quicker than the likes of Lee Berridge, Stephen Codman. We've got Tom Stanley as well. I've raced with Tom for a very long time. I remember that it was him, actually. The only time I've ever won a league race on iRacing was Tom Stanley chasing me down, actually, at Brands Hatch in the Kia touring car. Scared the living daylights out of me, seeing that gap go down and down and down throughout the whole final sector of the race. The only man not to set a time at the moment is Simon Povey in the Mercedes, the Spontex CDM Esports car. I will admit they're running a simplified livery tonight based on time spent on it, but there will be the full livery on them for next week onwards. And what a calendar we've got as well, by the way, Ed. It's really, really spicy this season. A lot of new circuits that we've not been to before, and the drivers were given a lot of chance to vote on it as well. So it's, you know, a little bit tailor-made to what they wanted. Yeah,
which hopefully does bring up some excellent racing. The drivers are more familiar with the circuits, and it's the ones that they really enjoy racing around, which hopefully provides some excellent entertainment as well. But like you mentioned, Chaz, it is interesting, isn't it, just to see how many newcomers are making their mark. I mean, Williams now up onto the front row of the grid, but he's got another newcomer of Daniel Parron-Smith right there behind him in the Porsche. Newcomer as well for the Sim Racing Magazine team. So it could be interesting to see a Sim Racing Magazine car fighting up at the sharp end, repping the branding.
Absolutely. It's been lovely to see them as well. It's great to have them back in force. Dan McCauley, fourth fastest, then Taylor Adams, then Nils Kaur, Jake Cranstone, Callum Brandt. What a fantastic grid of talent we've got here. I mean, I spoke to Simon Povey earlier today, actually. I was out and about, and Simon gave me a call just to see what I was thinking ahead of tonight, and he's really, really buzzing for it. He was so excited and really doesn't know who could win any of these races. He reckons anyone in the top 15 could win any race if it goes wrong for someone else. I mean, we had Kyle Ridley up near the sharp end a lot last season. Dominic Brennan's still 24th at the moment. That really shows you how the pace is just getting stronger and stronger. This is easily the most competitive grid that we've ever had in the series.
Yeah, former champion as well, Lewis Ward, only just inside the top 20. He's 20th place. Now he's been bumped down into 21st. So he's really going to have to try and work together with his teammate to get up the order. See if there is any more pace for the Apex Racing Academy duo.
It's this section here. I wanted to go on board through here. This is really, really tough now. You get on the brakes.
He's not properly pushing, is he? I think he's just trying to set it up for the next lap.
That curb is a nightmare, but this corner, this left-hander is really horrible because it's quite a late apex, but it's a really chunky curb as well, and there's a slight crest to it, so the back end of the car wants to break away. Then you've got to think about the weight transfer as it swings left to then trying to drag the engine round to the right. It's so easy to just over-rotate those rears, and you will end up having to back out of it, or even just power slide it round the final corner. But it's super entertaining. It's lovely to see just how close this entire field is. I mean, Lewis Ward still in 22nd place, 23rd now with John Barnes improving. It's crazy.
It's mad, isn't it? Just how exciting this qualifying session is already at the start of a season. We've got just about 5 minutes remaining for these drivers. Not a lot of time at all. We are also, I think, Chaz, correct me if I'm wrong, but still implementing a few sprint races throughout the course of the season. This being just the standard bread and butter 1 hour, not quite endurance race, but still just basically the 1 hour format that the drivers are pretty used to by now, we'd hope at least.
Yeah, definitely.
That they are able to complete the laps that they are on as the checkered flag falls in the session. In obviously the heat racing formats, it basically cuts it abruptly as soon as the checkered flag has dropped in the session. So we will see some drivers maybe making some late improvements, trying to be the last ones to come across the line before that flag falls, to have the circuit in the best possible condition for them to set their times.
Just looking at the calendar then for the rest of the season, we have basically split it into 4 quarters, where it's 3 weeks in a row, then a week off, 3 weeks in a row, and so on. And there's going to be 4 potentially wet races over the course of the season as well. 2 of them will be endurance races, 2 of them will be sprint race nights as well. And we go, obviously, here first to Indianapolis on their amazing road course. We then head to Long Beach next week, which is going to be mighty exciting. And then we go for our first sprint race meeting of the season at Watkins Glen for rounds 3 and 4. There's potential that it could rain there as well, with really high humidity at Watkins, so that could be exciting to see. We then have a week off, then head to the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. It's been a number of seasons since we've been there. Sprint races again at Circuit Lebanon in France. That was a real hit with the drivers last season. It's going to be dry there that time round. And then, of course, we go to Spa for another endurance race. It's been a staple of the series since we've begun, but that's a potentially wet one as well. Then we have a week off and even more rain on the horizon as well, as we go back to Donington Park for the Grand Prix circuit for rounds 9 and 10. Then we're going to Zolder, another track that we've not been to in a long time. Catalonia in the middle of the season this time, rather than being right at the end. Then we have another week off, as a bit of a spin there for Chris Jennings. And then after the week off, we go to sprint racing at Zandvoort. Now that's going to be a belter on the new updated layout there. Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. That's going to be possibly one of my favourites of the entire championship. And then for the season finale, we go back to Fuji, where we started the winter tour last year. And there's potential that it could rain there as well for a really spicy end of season. So many great rounds of this championship to come. Weather as well being a difficult patch for them to deal with. I'm looking forward to seeing how this all shapes out, because it could be anybody in the top 15, even in normal conditions, couldn't it?
It really could. It's going to be very interesting, obviously, over the course of a season to see how the drivers sort of are impacted, obviously, by the weather, but also by the different formats of the sprints. So we do know certain drivers do come into their own in these sprint races, and others really do know how to make the strategies work in these longer style 1 hour races. That's like currently the pick of the bunch for Regenta Sim Racing, still hanging on to that pole position. You can see that Regenta are sort of just cruising around at the moment, trying to pick the spots out on circuit where they're going to be sort of out of the way of the traffic, which I think is another important thing, because with the grid being as strong as it is, and with the number of cars that we have, I think just over the 30 car market, we've got 35 out there today. Does it mean that track space is going to be at a premium for these drivers, both in qualifying and of course the race as it progresses? Looks like they're backing off just a touch, getting well out of the way.
It's the top 28 covered by less than a second at the moment. Mark Johnson is 0.94 of a second off pole. That's absolutely balmy. There's less than a tenth between the top 3. It's easily the closest that we've ever seen this championship. And I mean, Rob Sutherland, Rob's not a bad peddler at all. I was racing against him last night, actually, in the Evolution Sim Racing TCR Championship at Spa-Francorchamps. We had some good on-track battles together. He absolutely mugged me off at one point, he'll be happy to tell you. But he's down in 33rd position, and Rob is a quick peddler as well. So there's so many great drivers in here that are just finding the time, and others that maybe not having an easy start to this. It's a difficult circuit though, isn't it, Ed? It's difficult to get along with a place like this, because so many of the corners are not flowing. They're really, really awkward corners, as they often are on American circuits, we've found.
Yeah, but the awkwardness does sort of promote some great racing, some opportunities for drivers to catch each other unawares, and really attacking the curves there is when Idris Abdullahi for Chicane Online Racing just really throwing his BMW through its paces as he runs his way out of that final bend onto banking, onto the oval, and start his final lap. I was about to say Simon Povey, surprisingly not inside the top 10. He does, I don't know, it's good enough now for 9th position, but still not really what we expect of him. We do hold Simon to quite a high standard. He is, I think, is he the most winningest driver now in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge? He's got a championship to prove it as well. So he does tend to be one of the very top drivers. Could have been a shout, obviously, for the championship last season, had he not decided to have a child. I know.
God's sake, Simon, priorities, mate.
Yeah, didn't really think that one through or plan it out in advance, but there we go.
Oh, Christ, you're going to get in trouble, Ed. You really are. But the thing is, as well, is that we've got all previous championships covered. We've got Simon in here. We've then got Lewis Ward, who won 2 titles in a row, and then Nils Kaur, and they're all together on the grid in 7th, 8th and 9th. That shows you, again, the talent and pedigree. Daniel Mills as well, an American driver in the series, so it's actually his home race to start the season. 1 of 3. He's lucky enough to have 3 home races in this championship, so he's on home soil for those. But the qualifying session is now over. Checkered flag is out, and we still have less than quarter of a second covering the top 8 positions. Less than half a second covers the top 18 drivers. It's just unreal. Absolutely. I mean, Dominic Brennan, 19th. Dominic was he was also in with a shout at the championship last season. Dom was a potential championship winner in season 4, and he's down in 19th after quality. Unbelievable. It's bonkers. I mean, this is him. He's not celebrating. He's more in frustration, just keeping it pinned and going around the oval instead. It's weird to see someone turning right on an oval. Oh, okay, he was turning left in the end, I guess. Mark Johnson crosses the line for Wally Ams Racing. He's got a teammate in the form of Stephen Codman.
I mean, the gaps throughout the gap from 1st to 10th is sometimes the gap we've seen from 1st to 2nd in previous championships.
It absolutely is, yeah.
It's beggars belief what we're seeing here. Matt Slight able to get the better of Etten Williams, but you can see that Daniel isn't far behind, is he? The gap from 1st, 2nd, like you say, 1,000th of a second. And how many different cars? We've got 5 different cars in the top 5 spots.
That's brilliant, isn't it? You couldn't ask for more for the first round of the season. 5 different manufacturers in the 5 top spots on the grid, and 2 of them in the top 3 are newcomers as well. First time in the championship, Etten Williams and Daniel Parron-Smith for SRM Black. That's great to see for the SRM team. They have had Paul Goffin and Drew Fletcher quite up there at the sharp end sometimes as well, but not quite to this extent, with no disrespect, boys. But wow, what a great qualifying session that is to get the season underway. A big shout out as well, by the way, to our championship sponsors, Crockery Direct, Orris Digital and Derbyshire Holiday Homes, Heinz Mayer and Drew Fletcher. Massive appreciation to you guys for supporting the series and everything that SRM does continuously, time after time. Here's the grid then for the very first round of the championship. Matt Slight starts on pole position alongside Ayrton Williams in his very first qualifying. He's only 1,000th ahead of Daniel Parron-Smith, with Callum Brandt next up behind him. Dan McCauley and Taylor Adams make up row 3, with Nils Kaur and Lewis Ward 3 championships between them on row 4. Simon Povey is 9th with Daniel Mills in 10th place. Jake Cranstone starts 11th with Ben Chalcraft alongside him in 12th. Then it's Rob Sharp and Stephen Codman, with Kyle Ridley and Ian Pfeiffer in 16th. We then have Toby Johns and Dennis Van Beelen on the 9th row. Dominic Brennan and Guy Edwards complete in the top 20. Lee Berridge is next with Ben Idris Abdullahi in 22nd. Tom Stanley and John Barnes make up row 12. Then we have Jamie Pounder and Paul Goffin ahead of Toby Ward and Mark Johnson. Martin Kenyon and John Roberts complete the top 30 positions. Then it's Stephen Burns and Chris Jennings, Rob Sutherland and Simon Price, with Andy Marston in 35th position. So I know that I ask you this all the time, Ed, and you know what's coming. But
yeah,
I mean, at this stage, I wouldn't blame you if there's no answer, because I was going to say who's your money on, who's sort of looking good early doors, but I don't think even any of the drivers know, do they? Matt Slight on pole with all the slipstream you have here, he's going to have a lot of pressure from behind him, isn't he?
He will. He's got his teammate down in 6th place, who could try and maybe upset the rhythm from some more seasoned drivers of Callum Brandt and Dan McCall. If he can keep those busy, then it's just Matt Slight with his experience against the 2 newcomers, Ayrton Williams and Daniel Parron-Smith. But again, you can't really rule out a newcomer taking victory here for the first race of the season. They've already shown that they mean business in qualifying. It's so difficult to call because there's not really, by the looks of things, a favoured car either. It's all essentially 5 different manufacturers in the top 5. We can't really pin it on the BMWs having the advantage in a straight line, because it seems to me that iRacing have absolutely nailed the balance of performance for this season. This is going to be one heck of a season.
It really
is. I am really looking forward to seeing just how it unfolds.
Yeah, the thing is as well, the McLaren's still tipped to be the quick car, but it absolutely destroys its tyres compared to the others. So it's not the car for the long distance round of the championship. They've also considered what the what the car's performance is going to be like in wet weather. We don't actually have Toby Johns at the front of the field. He's in the middle of the pack here. It seems like something has gone wrong with the timing and it's sort of flipped everybody a little bit, so we'll get rid of that for a minute. Matt Slight is definitely not starting 20th. He's starting from pole position. I think it's just because they're halfway round a lap, so it considered them closer. I think it's only keeping track of one. It's only keeping track of like one line for some reason. It's put, I think, the left line ahead of the right line for some reason, because I'm seeing that it's. Yeah, I don't know why that. As you know, I was only keeping track of half the field. Why is it? I don't even know why it's doing that, to be honest, Chaz. I wonder if it's not drawing all of the cars.
Well, we can see them all, I think, out on circuit, so I'm not entirely certain what's going on. But
yeah,
we have a little bit of a blink in and out there, actually, for
Ayrton Williams. But as they head round the final corner and get on the power, Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge for Season 5 is underway. And Matt Slight moves over to the left-hand side to try and cover off the charge from Ayrton Williams in the Aston Martin. Daniel Parron-Smith holds the inside line in the Porsche. He's late on the brakes, and it looks like Callum Brandt wants a piece of that in the McLaren as well, the RD Sim Sport car. Dan McCauley next to him as they come around turn 2. Nice and smooth from all those guys. Looks like it's all tidy behind that as well. Very smooth stuff around those first couple of corners. It's not easy to get that right at all. There's a bit of a brake check in the middle of the field there as everyone concertinas together, but over the chicane for the first time. Looks like everybody's got round the first lap, or at least the first half of the lap anyway, very cleanly. There's Martin Kenyon a bit further back. Dominic Brennan is spinning. Dominic Brennan is around, and John Barnes as well. Oh, there's a few cars involved. John Barnes in the barrier. Dominic Brennan's BMW was facing completely backwards for a second there. Not quite sure who that affected. Other than that, though, I saw a few names drop down slightly, but hopefully once they cross the line it may sort itself out. But either way, it is Matt Slight leading the way for Regenta Sim Racing in the BMW. Then it's the Porsche of Daniel Parron-Smith. Great to see a Porsche right up there again, like I said. And still we have one of each 5 cars in the top 5, I believe. We do. BMW, Porsche, Aston Martin, Mercedes, McLaren Callum Brandt and Dan McCauley. These two have had some amazing battles in the past. I think Dan maybe with a slowdown penalty. He's got a really poor run out of the final corner as they're crossing the line. It's still not.
Fine. Change for a lead. Chaz, look at this.
There we go.
Smith right up to the front of the field now.
And even Ayrton Williams going with him. Ayrton Williams went with him as well down the inside. So straight off the bat, Matt Slight goes from first to third in one corner, quite literally. Unbelievable stuff. But that is Daniel Parron-Smith leading the way. It's been a long time since we've had a Porsche at the front of the field, and he's doing it justice at the minute. It's a squirty little car, this machine. It's a fantastic bit of kit. It's the car that I was testing around here as well, and it really does love to over-rotate, but it means that it's got this very pointy front end on it. It's great fun. The front end will just turn in whenever you want. It's just about holding onto the rear end and making sure it doesn't behave itself. Matt Slight there under pressure now. Callum Brandt going through on him. Dan McCauley having to get out of it as well. Down there in the Mercedes. He's got Nils Core, Taylor Adams, Lewis Ward and Simon Povey all behind. But wow, it is so close throughout the entire pack. Just going to quickly reload the timing software, everybody. So if you bear with me a second, the project and everything that you'll see on the screen now with all the graphics may just disappear, because it is still saying that some of these guys are down in 23rd position. As you can see, it says Matt Slight is all the way down there. So if you do bear with me for a second, we will restart that and hopefully get the timing right. Yes, it has worked now, I can tell you. So there we go. Daniel Parron-Smith leading the way. Ayrton Williams just behind him, weaving away in the Aston Martin. The intervals and the timing will now catch up. But wow, what a close field we've got here. Look at that, Dan McCauley taking a look down the inside, but there's such a huge train of them. Jake Cranstone at the back of this here, but there's what, 6 or 7 cars directly in front of him there, Ed, that could all get involved in this?
Yeah, it's so exciting, isn't it, just to see now the newcomers really making their mark. Daniel Parron-Smith with a nice measured move up on the inside, but is that maybe a little bit inexperienced, because we know that sometimes in the beginning of these races you don't want to be the car in the lead. You want to be the cars just a few sort of spots back, because you can save the fuel and then that helps you out a boatload later on in the race. You don't obviously want to lose track of the leaders too much, as Matt Slight I think gets a little bit thrown off there by a little half look up the inside from Dan McCauley, and I think that little bit of distraction really paid dividends, because now he's going to lose out on not just one position but maybe 2, maybe even out to his teammate there, as Taylor Adams we can see trying to sweep all the way around the outside of Matt Slight.
Yeah, it was before that. It was actually 2 Apex cars trying to chase down 2 Regenta cars in the middle of this pack. But at this present moment, it's Matt Slight and Lewis Ward that are right together, the BMW and the Mercedes. Jake Cranstone wants a piece of this. He's overtaken Simon Povey in all of this as well. Guy Edwards is not the car behind. That's Daniel Mills. We're used to seeing Guy Edwards in that livery, but that's newcomer Daniel Mills. He's got Rob Sharp, fellow Porsche enthusiast, behind him. Then Kyle Ridley. Biggest mover in the field is actually Toby Ward. He's gained 5 places, tied with Guy Edwards. Can't see anybody else with more positions gained. Yes, Stephen Burns, actually. 6 places for him in the top of the Pops livery. Still don't quite get the reference, but still, it's very entertaining, as it always is from those guys. Simon Povey back down the inside. Look at that. Matt Slight, our pole sitter, now down in 10th position. Has he got some sort of problem, do you reckon?
It could be. It might just be a case of him being thrown out of position. Again, it's about the disconnected nature of some of these corners. They don't flow very well together. So if you get thrown offline, you really struggle to get back onto it, and then all of a sudden you've got one car up your inside, then another car's battling around with you, and you're just sort of stuck fighting against the tide. You're basically trying to paddle up creek, not with an oar but with a spoon, and that's no good at all for anyone. So you're going to be really struggling, and unfortunately for Matt Slight, he found himself just getting washed away. But now it's his time to, I guess, get resettled back into the race. There's still a lot of time to go. Not even 10% done, or just about, I think, can't we?
Yes.
10% now.
yeah, about 10%. Let's have a little look further back in the pack. Mark Johnson in the Walliams racing machine here, just in front of Martin Kenyon in that very interesting. Is that? It's a Jelly Babies McLaren. I mean, I love the Rothmans livery on the Walliams machine as well. Kenyon throws it up the inside, bounces off it like a Jelly Baby, but certainly doesn't make quite the same noise as if you threw a Jelly Belly at a Mercedes. A Jelly Belly? Jelly Baby. Oh, he's got the other 2 McLarens now behind him as well. John Roberts wants to try and take advantage of that. Toby John's in the mix. Would you look at this? Dominic Brennan still recovering, down in 30th place. As John Roberts is around. John's in the wall. John's had an off. What on earth caused this? Oh, wow, netcode involved there. Oh, that's a big hit as well. That's an absolute write-off.
Yeah. You can see the sort of the left rear suspension completely caved in. Has to take a trip to the pit lane to get that repaired. The drivers do get a fast repair, thankfully, so we will be seeing John Roberts back out onto the circuit. Hopefully he's able to turn his fortunes around now, get a bit of clear air, get that car repaired, and then see what he can do for the remainder of the race. Getting a little bit of a breakaway out in the lead now. The trio of Daniel Parent-Smith, Ayrton Williams and Callum Brandt, they're just sort of trying to work together really to break away from Dan McCauley, who himself has got former champion or reigning champion Niels Court breathing down his neck. Niels, like we said, running the number 15. Ultimately, that was his number from last season, but he will be running the number 1 from all future rounds.
Yeah, Lewis Ward will be returning to the number 97 that he famously ran in the past before winning the championship. But it's so close everywhere we look. I mean, look at this battle in the middle here. Stephen Codman in the Williams Mercedes. He's got Dennis Van Beelen, Jamie Pounder, Toby Ward, and then Tom Stanley in there as well, the two Press Standard Nomad cars. Simon Povey is pitting early, Ed. He's getting out of this fight. This is what we see him do, isn't it? He takes the early stop, gets in some clean air, puts in Simon Povey-esque lap times, and then he'll try and make it work at the end of the race. But, to be fair, he's a lot further back in the pack than we're used to seeing him when it turns out that he's doing this strategy. So, I don't know how much that's going to work. He'll still gain from it. I'm not sure that's going to gain him enough to win a race. We'll find out, I guess.
The one season I raced in this, it was against Simon Povey, and he's traumatised me because every time I see him coming for that early pit stop, I know what's coming.
Yeah.
Every single time he did it without fail, he'd come out after sort of the final round of pit stops with a massive advantage, and you just wouldn't be able to keep up with him. The slipstream in this championship is so important because of how tight the drivers are, basically evenly matched. But now, if you can do something like that to get ahead of the competition, get that clear air and not have to worry about the battles, you're going to be in a very good position. That's Simon Povey essentially backing himself in clear air to hot lap against the rest, and maybe that's going to be the winning formula. Out in front though, it is two newcomers. This is John Barnes.
I think that's based on his damage that he had earlier on in the race. The car's just not behaving itself. We will have a look back at this and what happened. No, we won't actually, because I refreshed the timing earlier on, didn't I? I'm so sorry, everyone. So we do not have a replay of what happened to Dominic Brennan and John Barnes in the opening lap. But look at these top three. All drivers that didn't race with us last season as well. Daniel Parent-Smith, Ayrton Williams and Callum Brandt. Callum, of course, proved himself in previous seasons and was absolutely rapid. Nearly won the championship as well, did Callum, racing against Lewis Ward. Alex O'Grady asking if...
Callum in the McLaren, actually, isn't it, Chaz? I think we've seen him in the Porsche, Mercedes. Now he's switched allegiances to McLaren.
I think it was 2 seasons in the Merc, actually. I don't remember seeing him in the Porsche.
Have we not seen him in the Porsche?
No, I don't think we've had an RD Sim Sport Porsche before. Until now. But Alex O'Grady asking if John Roberts is okay. Yes, John will be fine. And I hope that he'll be back out on the circuit again. Thank you guys for the wonderful comments as well. Glad you're enjoying the show so far. It's been a great start to the season already. We're only 10 minutes into this race. An hour long, 2 pit stops expected from pretty much all drivers. Not the best frame rate through that chicane, but it does show just about every single car in the field, so I'm sure we can be forgiven. But Dan McCauley in the Apex Racing Academy Mercedes is best of the rest in 4th place. This is his teammate Lewis Ward chasing down Taylor Adams. Some of them are lifting a little bit early there, aren't they, Ed, into this chicane part of the circuit. So I think they're trying to save fuel, but do it as subtly as possible, maybe. I'm not sure. This is the thing. It's what we love about this championship, though. We never really know what people's plans are until we get the idea of when they jump into the pits. So we can speculate all we want, and that's what we spend a lot of our time doing anyway.
Ian Pfeiffer there for Satellite Racing Teal. We go on board with the Mercedes, chasing down Ben Chalcraft in that wonderful Minardi SimSport livery. They do pull out some really, really tasty looking cars, do Minardi. And now Ian having a little look up the inside, but I think better of it. Does force the Minardi car to go a little deep, but it seems actually he's having to now defend from the boosted cars. That's Lee Berridge, who had a little look around the outside and now fades just to the inside been so difficult to find overtaking space on this first sector, so I like trying to set it up for later on in the lap. Potentially coming through here as Idris Abdullahi just seems to lose track a little bit of the McLaren up ahead.
Got a battle behind here, nearly 3 wide. The Prestanda Nomad cars right together, and it is Jamie Pounder going past Stephen Codman. Hook, line and sinker, you could say, as Jamie goes through. Tom Stanley just in front of that. Love the little whee in the background. Toby Ward just ahead of these guys. Good to have Toby back in one of our championships again as well. He's been quite the I was going to call him common then. That's not quite right, is it? He's a regular on Chaz Draycott Media in our championships, and he's a great character as well. If he paints his if he paints his wheels pink this season, we're going to kick him out straight away, because he's usually the one that spearheads the campaign of everyone painting their wheels pink, as they all know I absolutely hate it when they do that. We've got a battle going on here though. Dan McCauley, well, I'll tell you what, if you were going to have anybody chasing you down right now, you wouldn't want it to be reigning champion Nils Core, would you? Because all season Dan was very complimentary of Nils and his pace and his strategies, and now he's really putting it to the test. Aston Martin against Mercedes as well. Both of these guys previously racing in different cars. We've seen Nils advocate for the BMW for so many seasons, and Dan always in the McLaren as well. It's great to have this variety, not just in new teams coming back, but new teams in new cars as well.
Yeah, we'll have a look, obviously, at what they can do, maybe working together, potentially, to try and catch up to the trio that have slowly but surely been just stepping away a little from the chasing pack in behind. On that last lap, it was a 10th gain by Dan McCauley on Callum Brandt, but it has been sort of swinging back and forth. Advantage, I think, at the moment, sticking with that lead 3. To follow now Lee Berridge, who's got chicane online racing cars in behind for company. Back up though to Nils Core. It's just, again, you can see the gap edging around about that 3-second barrier, isn't it? And maybe it's a case of, is Nils Core car to try and lead the way? He's gotten ahead this time of Dan McCauley. But move up on the inside. I think Dan McCauley takes the higher line and decides, you know what, you can have this, mate. We'll see if you can catch up to this trio up in front.
Yeah, very, very good stuff that. Dan's just being strategic there. He says, look, I don't want to fight you. We need to stick together in a group. It's a great round it's a great place to have this first round of the championship as well, because it is a circuit where slipstream can be important. So there's a bit of an even exaggerated strategical element to it. But Daniel Parron-Smith in this Porsche, what a revelation he and Ayrton Williams have been so far. We know Callum Brandt's quick, and it's great to have him back as well. But these sort of new, unproven drivers to the series showing us just about where they are on the map. And it's lovely to see a Porsche near the front again, I have to say it. It's great to have one up there. Ayrton Williams.
I have to say well, actually, it's surprising that Callum Brandt, not to discredit him, but I think a lot of the time with Callum Brandt, a lot of his best races were done sort of more in the head rather than on the track, wasn't it? A lot of his great races came from his strategy calls. But he seems to now have the pace as well to really keep up at the front of the field. It was oftentimes with him and Simon Povey, if it was a straight fight on pace, oftentimes Simon would come out on top. But when it was a case of trying a different strategy, maybe throwing off balance a little bit more on the consistency, that was when Callum Brandt really came into his own. So if he's added that extra bit of pace into his sort of resume, he's really going to be one to watch. But of course, with Daniel Parron-Smith and Ayrton Williams, we have no idea what they're going to be able to do as well over the course of a season. So it is that real great unknown from this pair leading the way. Do worry though if they sort of are familiar with the almost pit stop, almost meta that sort of gradually evolved, hasn't it, over the course of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge seasons. A lot of the drivers opting for longer first pit stop and then a short second pit stop. The first pit stop is where they're able to take a couple of tyres, usually the sort of front two, which get worn the most, and then fueling it up as much as they can before then managing that set until the end. If they maybe want to try something different, we will see, of course, how they decide to attack things later on. Expecting pit stops around about 10 minutes from now. We do often see drivers come in around about the 35-minute mark. I think if memory serves correct, Chaz.
Yeah, usually it's...
Cranston, look at this charge up the inside.
Incredible. Incredible stuff. Wow. That was very, very close.
He stopped that like it was a Pro Master.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. It's like he hit a brick wall, an invisible one. Threw it down the inside, but that's one thing with Jake. He's always been good on the brakes. As Ayrton Williams goes for the race lead here, he's gone past Daniel Parron-Smith. He's gone down the inside. I'm not sure if Dan's saying to him, look, you can go in front now. I want to save some fuel for a bit. No, never mind. He's actually gone and got it back from him as well. Gets the cutback. So the top three fighting for this race lead. Callum Brandt, well, this is perfect for him, to be honest. He gets to just watch and listen in for whatever these guys are doing.
It's even better, actually, for Nils Corr, who's able to gain a huge amount of time. That last lap, they did lose a little bit of time. But now, Nils Corr, we're going to see the lap times as they come over the line. What was Callum Brandt's last effort? 1 minute 32.6. Nils Corr did 1 minute 39.9. So that is 7/10 of a second gained just from that little bit of battling in the favour of Nils Corr. So this three-way fight could quickly become, well, a 5 and then maybe even, you know, 6, 7, 8, 9 as the chasing pack in behind does start to loom a little bit larger in the rear view mirrors of the front three. As Ben Chalcraft with Andy Simsport, we saw him having a great little battle earlier, but unfortunately he seems to have had a bit of a moment now coming through. Is that the final sector?
No, that's turn 1. Turns 1 and 2, that is, for Ben Chalcraft. Having that little spin. He's told me that that's the Saltaire Brewery livery that he's running this season, and the metallic sort of silver effect is to make it look like a keg. Oh, he just checks up with that incident. And I think he got caught with Lee Berridge there, unfortunately. But he continues on, and the battles in the middle of the pack still going as well. Kyle Ridley here just in front of Ian Pfeiffer in the Satellite Racing teal car, and that slightly off-white Mercedes. I've just got back from Germany yesterday, and all the taxis are that colour. They're this weird sort of, I don't know, it's like a sort of creamy colour. It's really strange. But they all look like that. We've got Daniel Kelleher in the chat as well saying, may I ask where the round 2 is? I'd love to participate in this. He's complimenting how good the racing is. Round 2 is going to be at Long Beach, Daniel, but unfortunately the series is full at the moment. And we are waiting for a few to drop down and for the numbers to drop down slightly. Originally, it was going to be a maximum of 36 drivers in the series. It was extended to 40, so we're waiting for it to drop back down to that 36 before we have anybody new on the grid. But if you want to, I'll pop a link in the chat. And if you go to my website, go to chazdraycott.com and then /enter a championship, you'll be able to enter from there. It's £20 for the season, as long as you join in the first half, but you won't get asked to pay that until you get called up, basically, when some reserves have dropped out. So there should be, it's not even a working link, so well done, Chaz. But I'll pop a working link now into the chat for you, and if you do want to sign up, it pays to be on the reserve list anyway, because if you are on the reserve list for this season, you get a priority entry for the next season anyway, even if you don't make it in this time round. So
great battle in the midfield there, as Toby Ward's, I think, just been overtaken by 3 cars. Tom Stanley, Jamie Pounder and Stephen Codman have really got through on him now. And actually, you can see Codman right in the thick of it there for the Williams Racing Mercedes. Seeing your first race after an hour's worth of driving, you can feel battered. Hopefully Codman is able to be feeling ship-shape after this.
That was good. That took me a minute, that, Ed. That was good. You know, I think, I mean, it's a long season ahead, but I don't think it can get much better than that. That was brilliant. It took me a second, but that's what makes it even better.
Those are the best.
It was really subtle.
You had to sort of
that was proper subtle.
There we go. The subtle moment of realisation is Dan Macaulay there battling already with Jake Cranston. Jake's really having a good charge up through the field. His qualifying wasn't necessarily the best of affairs for him, but out here out on the circuit, for his first time in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge, he's really starting to put a good charge on, keeping an eye as well on the times of Simon Povey. He's matching those of the leaders, just a little bit slower than Daniel Parron-Smith at the moment, but I do worry if that battling that we saw earlier is just giving a little bit more of an advantage to Simon. Yeah, he has got just completely clear track space. Look at that.
I was
Nobody
thinking
in shot.
Slipstream might change it as well for those guys up front, so they may be a little bit quicker just because they're helped on by that slipstream. So I think in relative terms, he's probably on the same pace but it's just those extra few tenths are just down to the long straights and all the slipstream. A quick recap then at the moment as we are nearing the halfway point of the race. It's Daniel Parron-Smith, newcomer to the series, leading the way in the Porsche for SRM Black, and then it's Ayrton Williams in second place for Satellite Racing Blue, another newcomer. Callum Brandt returns to the series and is currently third. Nils Kaur is now with these guys in fourth place, the reigning champion going well, so 2 of the Satellite Racing cars in the top 4. Then it's Dan McCauley in 5th place ahead of Jake Cranstone, Taylor Adams, Lewis Ward in 8th, Guy Edwards having a great race, 11 places gained for Guy. What a brilliant drive he's having, that's very under the radar. Daniel Mills in 10th place, then it's Matt Slight, Rob Sharp, Ian Pfeiffer, Kyle Ridley, Lee Berridge, Ben Idris Abdillahi, sorry Ben, Dennis Van Beelen next up, Tom Stanley, Jamie Pounder, and then Toby Ward completing the top 20. Dominic Brennan still outside of the top 20, but look how close they are, even back there, Ed. It's just constant battles everywhere.
Yeah, there's a really lovely little train of cars, isn't there, in the midst of Dominic Brennan at this moment in time. Spontex CDM Esports, and Dominic Brennan is a driver that we've seen out there getting podiums. I think even a few race victories for Dominic Brennan. Haven't we seen him as well get on the top step before?
Yeah, he's won a couple of races before as Dom.
Amazing just how the level of championship just seems to be getting stronger and stronger, and he's currently sitting outside of the top 20, which is a bit bonkers, really. Obviously, for Dominic Brennan, sometimes he has off rounds, and this could be a case where it's just one of those circuits he doesn't quite gel with.
Well, he had 5 podiums last season, 3 of them in the first 4 rounds, did Dom. So it shows you that he's got the pedigree to be right up there. Chris Jennings is another one of our new drivers to the series, clearly a fan of a metallic spec map as well, like Ben Chalcraft, as the two of them, well, hopefully don't make sparks fly on the circuit with their very metal-looking machines. Chris running just as a privateer this season, same as Martin Kenyon just ahead in the McLaren, although he goes a little bit wide, allows Ben Chalcraft to go through. There's been more changes a bit further up, although, yeah, Jake Cranstone actually got past Dan McCauley and then got re-overtaken by him. Side-by-side here down the start-finish straight. Kyle Ridley in the BMW on the outside. Dennis Van Beelen in the Aston Martin this season, which is cool to see, in the Chicane Online Racing livery. Fantastic-looking cars from Chicane Online Racing, as always. It's lovely to see it on the Aston instead of the BMW. I mean, I described the BMW earlier as a billboard because I painted Dominic Brennan's car, and there's a lot of room for logos and designs. It's a massive bit of kit as Dennis gets close there to the back of Kyle Ridley. These two have had some good battles before as well, so it's great to see that getting reignited.
Yeah, I loved it. That's what we're seeing all up and down through the field. It's difficult for us to single out just one sort of area of the circuit to focus on. We do try and do our best here on Chaz Draycott Media to get a picture of the whole race, not just those leading the way. But oftentimes when the racing is this close, we do often miss things. I can see, I think, Toby Johns in a close little battle with Mark Johnson. Just a little bit further down for 23rd place. See now Toby Johns just trying to get through onto him. Toby's a driver that we have seen sort of start to develop, haven't we, over the course of a season. Look at this little tussle as the McLaren getting stuck right in there to the BMW. Ben Chalcraft for Minardi Simsport, though, I think just able to get the better of Martin Kenyon there in the McLaren.
Jelly babies and beer.
Bright. It does sort of brightly stick out, doesn't it, the Jelly Babies car in amongst the nice sort of understated sort of silver cars. The nice sort of almost... Ooh, what on earth is that, Mark Kenyon? Oh, I thought he had a mistake, but no, he's calling into the pit. And that's the thing that the drivers need to be so careful of, is that pit entry, because it does essentially cut across the racing line.
Yeah, unfortunately, the pit lane cameras here are not broadcastably describable. But the pit cameras, yeah, let's just say not great. Daniel Parron-Smith was about half a second ahead of Ayrton Williams on that previous lap, and Ayrton now big send up the inside in the satellite machine, and then look at that from Daniel back through. Oh, that was a brilliant cutback. That was textbook stuff, but fair play to Ayrton Williams because he could have swung completely across the corner there and driven into him on the exit, and he kept it nice and tidy. But wow, that was close stuff. A quick shout as well, somebody mentioned it before, but we do have quite an international grid. It's all seemingly going on in the middle of the pack. We've got obviously a lot of British drivers out there, but there's a number of drivers from different countries. Ayrton Williams from Australia, Nils Kaur, German, Daniel Mills from over in America. We've also got the two French drivers in the middle of the pack, Dutch drivers as well, Scottish. It's fantastic. A really, really good mix. We unfortunately don't have a Fausto Pinto with us this season, But Fausto, a Portuguese driver that's been with us for a number of seasons, whoa, that was close there. Ayrton Williams and Daniel Parent-Smith into the pits. Don't think Ayrton was ready for him to brake at that point. But that's an important thing, isn't it? Practicing the pit entry. Yep. And it seemed like some of them had, some of them hadn't in that case. And I think it was clear who.
Yeah, it's just a case of being very, very careful, obviously. I think we did see actually a little bit of damage, wasn't it, on the front end of Ayrton Williams. So he's going to be able to get that repaired, and maybe that'll improve his chances of battling up, because front end damage on these cars does sort of add a bit extra drag, and these cars are already quite sensitive to that. Do lose out a little bit more on top end if they do have some sort of front end aero damage. So hopefully we'll be able to see him fully repaired and fighting up there with Daniel Parent-Smith. But at the moment, Callum Brandt has inherited the lead of the race. He did drop back a little bit though, didn't he, from that leading duo of Williams and Daniel Parent-Smith, and got into a little bit of a tussle with Dan McCauley. I think now he's going to just try and focus on his lap times to break away, but in doing so he could actually lead the sort of pack in behind into that battle for the lead of the race. Simon Povey, after all the pit stops have been done, finds himself in 9th position.
10 seconds clear of Ayrton Williams.
Got some cars around him. He did have a lot of quite a significantly shorter pit stop than Simon. Ayrton Williams had a 24-second pit stop, basically stationary for that length of time, while Simon Povey was stationary for only about 9 seconds.
Yeah, he's taking his short stop early, and then he's going to fully fuel it in the next one. So it's not a complete reflection of where he's going to be at the end, but that keeps us guessing, keeps us excited for the end of the race. The two Regenta cars, as they often did last season, have both carried on. Taylor Adams and Matt Slight both going through, as some of the other guys coming out of the pits. Their cars that are now a lap down.
Looking at Taylor Adams, it's around about 1.5 minutes for a lap time around here. He's close to making it to half race distance in the pits. He'll probably come into the pits, and while he's serving his pit stop, the race will tick over past half race distance. So if
because
he's able to really save the fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. Because of how long it is in the pits, it's usually 1 minute and 10 seconds for a lot of these guys, 1 minute and 15 minimum. So yeah, by the time he comes out of the pits, he may be past halfway. Could he actually make it work? That would be an unbelievable way to start the season. Taylor was so unlucky last season chasing Nils Corey. Was right with him at so many points. He was the hard charger that really took the fight to Nils. Simon, of course, did when he came back.
Was it the first race of the season, Laguna Seca, last time out, where he was desperately unlucky? Both him and Matt Slight actually involved in a few incidents that they were sort of kind of innocent parties of, and unfortunately that was more or less the story of their season. This could be a sign of fortunes potentially changing for Regenta, but it's not just Regenta that are able to keep it going. Kyle Ridley as well, also in the BMW, able to keep it going. Now that's like into the pits, but has Taylor Adams kept it going?
He has. Oh my goodness me.
What is that running on?
Yeah, I was going to say, is this on... I've spent my entire weekends talking about HVO biodiesel in the truck racing. And it seems like Taylor is on something like that at the moment, because, wow, he's going to be over halfway. Yeah, Ridley's managed to do another one here. So is this the BMW's new trump card? Is it not the straight line speed, but it's the fact that it runs on chip fat instead? I mean, you could ask Stephen Codman about it, but, wow, that is absolutely unreal. I didn't expect to see that at all. I've got no other words.
I mean, I don't really know. BMWs are sort of renowned for their economical ability, if that's even a word.
Well, they do save fuel by not using the indicators as much. So
yeah, that's so true.
That does tend to be the case. I was actually slated for that today, actually, for not using my indicators in the car.
Tailgating each other as well, saving.
Yeah. Well, I was just being stared down for it in that moment as well. So. Yeah, it's you know what? I'm allowed. It's at the end of the day, it's a stereotype. You don't want to disappoint people, do you?
Yeah, you've got a reputation to uphold.
Exactly. Yeah.
Joe to BMW.
Yeah.
Also, I think they a lot of BMW drivers, what they do with the engine warning lights, because it's on all the time, they just sort of just unplug it.
Yeah, I've done that.
It's just always on all the time. It's just save a bit of fuel. Yeah, I know it's doing that. It's fine.
Oh, absolutely. Taylor Adams finally in the pit lane. He's probably just got the clutch in and letting it roll all the way down there now, to be honest with you. Is Kyle Ridley going to come in? Of course he is. He's into the pit lane as well. So Simon Povey is going to be the race leader, which is going to be nice for him. He's got a bit of damage on that car. That left rear has taken a hit somewhere. And I think he might have maybe clipped the wall somewhere. Because it doesn't... I don't know. Wonder if he had a bit of an issue with some lap traffic, because he has lapped a few cars so far. But Simon will inherit the lead of the race. It's his natural habitat, but he's been down in, what, 9th place earlier on?
Actually, for all of the pit stop dramas as well, we haven't noticed that Callum Brandt has leapfrogged Ayrton Williams and Mills Court.
We also haven't noticed that Daniel Parron-Smith was stationary for 39 seconds as opposed to about the 25 of everyone else. So has he... Oh, he's had another drama there. Oh, and there's more contact as well, and that was Ben Idris Abdullahi. He ran wide, and then unfortunately he was just turned across the front of Daniel's car. I don't think that was particularly anyone's fault. Just a racing incident as he bounced over the curb, ran wide. That was really unlucky.
Potentially something to do with an unsafe pit entry, where we did obviously see the two cars come very close to blows on the way into the pits. I'm not sure if there was a bit of speeding going on, potentially at a limiter line.
Yeah,
either way.
I don't know, because he was the one... Was he in front, or was he... Yeah, because Ayrton nearly went into the back of him coming into the pits, so I'm not quite sure.
Don't know if that maybe if Ayrton bumped him a bit and that sort of gave him a bit of extra speed going over the line. I'm not so certain.
We shall see, I guess. We'll hopefully find out one way or another, but yeah, 39 seconds in the stop for Daniel Parron-Smith, so that's thrown him way down the order as... Oh, that's a Nomad car, that's Jamie Pounder. And luckily no one pounded into him, because that would have been a massive impact there with him just sat side on in the middle of the road. He recovers safely to the side of the chicane, makes sure that he's out of everyone's way. Good stuff. But it's Simon Povey leading the way by 6 seconds. But look at Callum Brandt there. He was 3 seconds quicker in the pits than a lot of the drivers around him. I'm not sure if he's going to pit a little bit earlier than them towards the end of the race. But wow, that's a very,
really
very good
pushing
guy.
hard as well. Looking at his lap times, he's the fastest car out on circuit, judging by that last lap. He was actually lapping quicker than Simon Povey as well by a good few tenths of a second.
But look what's chasing him. Look what's chasing him.
Really impressive lap time. Here we go. And when he was Neil's Court, you can see the two Satellite Racing blue cars working together, chasing down.
Sorry, I was going to say it's one 8-wheeled Aston Martin at the moment, isn't it? And Jake Cranstone as well, jumping up well, isn't he?
He is actually. He's having a good run of things. We did mention earlier he's having a great charge up through the field after a less than sort of impressive qualifying, at least by his high standards. So he's been really charging up through the field. We know his racecraft is so good. It has to be, obviously, from his time spent in the Formula One Championship, where he was just ever so impressive. And see if he can put those skills to the test. Well, look, just up through the field, obviously, it's some of the biggest moves. Again, a bit of an understated race, but still a great race from Guy Edwards. We often see it's a bit of an understated race from Guy, but he seems to be turning out some excellent results nevertheless. Up 13 positions into the top 10 in 7th place. He's got another RD Simsport car in behind. That is Daniel Mills, RD Simsport 2. Obviously, the drivers are limited for the number of drivers they can have in a team. I think they can they have a 3 and then it's, I think, the best 2 drivers that score points, or is it just a 2?
Just 2.
I think just 2, and basically both drivers are the ones that score the points.
Just
so
a pair.
That's why we see Lewis Ward for Apex Race Academy and Dan Macaulay obviously looking to try and see if they can retain, maybe not, I guess retain because they weren't here last time, but continue on their form as the best team for Apex Racing Academy.
Yeah, repeat victors, let's say. Lewis was also in the pits for a long time as well. 31 seconds for him. So he's had some drama somewhere in there as well. Not sure what that would be. That's what puts him on circuit with Daniel Parron-Smith right now. The two of them have Lee Berridge just in front. As Daniel goes down the inside into turn 1, says thank you very much, and the seemingly tiny little Porsche just squeezes its way by. And then... well, I was going to say it disappears off up the road because he got a really good initial run out of turn 2, but then, yeah, Lewis has caught right back up with him. Ben Chalcroft and Stephen Burns fighting again, as they did many a time in Season 4. And their 2 BMWs, both looking very different to how they did previously. Martin Kenyon and Chris Jennings having a fight. Rob Sutherland is in there too. Mark Johnson just behind these guys John Barnes a few seconds back. And this is for 29th, 30th, 31st and 32nd. They score points only down to 20th position, but the drivers see that as a good target. You know, they don't see that as a negative thing. They don't sort of score no points and then keep going, oh, well, I'm not going to bother, I'm not going to turn up. They chase that high of getting that first point of the season, and we've seen some great celebrations from drivers when they have done that. As Simon Povey comes into the pits, relinquishes the lead to Callum Brandt. We've seen that a few times before. And Callum now in the McLaren. We'll see those two Satellite Racing blue cars in the background, Ayrton Williams and Nils Kaur, and you've got to wonder what sort of threat these guys are to the race win here, Ed, because they look in a good position at the moment compared to the guys behind, don't they?
They really do, but again, you're going to have to see if Taylor Adams for Argentina Sim Racing can keep that sort of BMW sipping the fuel as it has done all race. Does he have a car around him at the moment from to slipstream off of? That's the main focus, because Taylor Adams has always been in the pack, able to sort of save the fuel, lift off here and there.
He doesn't actually
lose too much time. He does not have a car to save the fuel, so that's probably the reason why these two Aston Martins could be a real threat for the race lead, as Nils Kaur, I think, has just gotten ahead of Ayrton Williams for Satellite Racing Blue.
Just checking
two cars
this.
Have swapped places, as Simon Price is just going to get on the throttle a little bit too eagerly. The rear end threatens to overtake the front, but he manages to recover it nice and safely, and the wagon wheel does a little bit of off-roading.
Bit of a moment here for Mark Johnson as Martin Kenyon tries to rejoin the circuit. John Barnes has then had a drama after this. As maybe a hardware problem, because John seemingly disappeared. Oh yeah, he's definitely had a hardware issue there, unfortunately. The car blinking in and out very quickly. But here is our race leader, Callum Brandt, 5.8 seconds to Nils Kaur. Nils back in front of Ayrton now, so these guys swapping positions strategically to save time, so they don't hold each other up. They sort of move together forwards as a unit rather than just being one car trying to battle the other and both slowing each other down. But then behind them is Jake Cranstone in the Porsche, Taylor Adams in the background, then it's Guy Edwards, Daniel Mills, Dan McCauley, Rob Sharp in there in 9th place. Rob, typically with one of his very under-the-radar performances in his very beautiful Porsche Cayman. And then Dennis Van Beelen in the top 10 as well at the moment. He's got Matt Slight right behind him. It's great to see Dennis back in the championship and going strongly as well. It seems like, I mean, based on previous results for our drivers and the level of talent we've got this season, the form book is completely out of the window, isn't it? It's brilliant.
It really is great just to see so many drivers up there racing hard with one another. Ben, you can see, just having a little look up the inside of his countryman Ian Pfeiffer, two Frenchmen tussling out on circuit now. Dominic Brennan's just sort of a bystander watching it all unfold, but ready to pick up the pieces.
Ready to clean up.
Yeah, should there be a civil war out on circuit.
Get
Seem to be all nice and safe.
Christ. Unless there's
fine.
revolt in front.
Yeah.
He's got the marigolds and the sponges on standby. He's all good. Just behind him, Tom Stanley and Toby Johns in there as well. The Prestanda Nomad cars, very bright and beautiful. Great to see them back out on the circuit. A really professional, very polished team. Really good outfit, the Nomad squad. I've known of them for quite a long time now. I remember when they first formed here on iRacing. Seems like forever ago. They've certainly been about. Right then, lead at the front. Callum Brandt still quicker than the guys behind. 31.9 last time round, 32.2, then 32.3 for Nils Kaur and Ayrton Williams. So I think Callum, he had a bit of a shorter stop, I reckon. Well, it was literally shorter, but I think he took less fuel on purpose. I think he knew that he was going to still pit maybe a lap or so earlier than a few other guys towards the end of the race, and he knew he was just going to put solid pace in here. He's trying a bit of a different strategy rather than people trying to make it to the end. Taylor Adams is the one to keep your eye on as well, because he could potentially go all the way to the end of this race without pitting again. And most of the field, i.e., well, all of them, will do. As Brennan down the inside there of Idris Abdullahi. Ben just holding on.
There.
Good stuff.
Really strong there from Ben. Basically gave him just about car's width, but nothing more, and was very firm on his lines, which is what you need to be doing. Nice and predictable and sort of
smooth.
Making it blatantly obvious what your intentions are, as to basically make your defence as strong as possible, but also to keep yourself out of trouble. Toby Johns there, just inside the points. See points for the first race of the season, if he's able to hang on.
Whoa, moving around a bit.
The inside, yeah, they can tell that the car, when it gets into the ABS, becomes very unpredictable.
Simon Povey has had a drama, and he's been clipped by Martin Kenyon. Simon Povey there was with, who was that in the mix? This is Rob Sutherland going past him. It just said that Rob had overtaken him. So this was afterwards. So Simon overtook Martin. He went down the inside of both of them. Mark Johnson in there as well. Mark just turned in. I don't think he knew they were 3 wide, and then Kenyon clips him on the exit. And that's damaged the car to the point where he's had to go back to the pits. And Simon Povey, multiple winner, the most winningest driver in the series, and Season 1 champion, will not be completing this race by the look of it. That's a huge shame. Huge disappointment. But this is the sort of usual drama of the first round of the championship. I mean, look at last season. Nils Kor, he was spun around on the very first lap. He and Matt Slight had contact on lap 1 of race 1, and then he went on to win the title. So you never know what you're going to get in the first round of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Thanks again to our sponsors, Crockery Direct, Orris Digital and Derbyshire Holiday Homes. And broadcast here on Chaz Draycott Media with myself, Chaz Draycott, and Ed May. Great to be back once again for this championship. It does feel like just yesterday that we were finishing last season, and Nils Kor was taking that very, very popular win. There will be some pretty exciting announcements for the series coming up as it goes on, so keep your eyes on the social media channels for it all, and do join the Discord as well, because there will be some very exciting stuff. We're going to have our usual special events over the second half of the year, and a new series as well. There will be a new entire championship coming. There will be another winter tour later on in the year as well that we're going to do after this season. So there's lots to get involved in, and obviously lots to watch as well if you're not involved in the racing yourself. Daniel Mills into the pit lane here, Ed, in the Porsche. That seems a little bit earlier than everyone else. Maybe a strategy call to get out of some battling. What do you think?
Could be a case of just, like you say, trying to get out of trouble, out of the way of some battling, and then also maybe just thinking that it's the best thing you'll do if he's not really where he wants to be and you can't see any way out of it. Might as well roll the dice and see what that can do for you. Best thing to do, I think, in that situation is what Daniel Mills is doing, as we see now Lee Berridge again in the thick of the action. Back to this battle with Carla Ridley chasing him down, who is Ward up there with him as well. It's amazing, isn't it, that we've had so many great drivers over the course of the seasons that have gone by over the years, and one of our most impressive drivers, Simon Povey, not scoring any points, it seems, on the first race of the season, but it's not going to be all doom and gloom. If I remember rightly, Chaz, the drivers do get a drop round, so should be able to.
No, they don't. They can sod off.
They don't get drop round, man. Well, then there we go.
They
Simon,
should sort their priorities out. To be honest, I'm in a very entertaining group chat with Dan McCauley, Drew Fletcher and Simon Povey, and all they ever do is slate me for not giving them drop rounds. They keep trying, but they're not going to get them. Toby Ward there off the circuit, just rejoining there over the curb for a little bit of an excursion. Nobody around him though, so no danger to anybody. We've got Perrin Smith just in front of this lot. Lee Berridge, Kyle Ridley and Lewis Ward closest together. Jakub Szymanski asking where Simon Povey is. Simon's just had an incident and he is out of the race, unfortunately. Drew's now threatening me, saying that he wants to know what this new championship is, otherwise he's not sending the sponsorship money. But he's, to be honest, Drew, he to be honest about Drew, he told me earlier it's not even it's not him as Derbyshire Holiday Homes, it's Veronica, his lovely wife. So yeah, I'll just invoice her instead. Anyway, Callum Brandt continues to lead the race, 7.6 seconds clear now. He's still quicker than the guys behind, not by a massive amount. He wasn't quicker than Ayrton Williams on that last lap, but he is flying in that McLaren, really pushing hard. Drew's even come to the YouTube chat now because I'm ignoring him on Discord. But we hope you're enjoying the show, everybody. We're into the final quarter of the race here in round 1 of Season 5 of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge here from Indianapolis, the first time we've ever raced here. And I can tell you, as a recent driver of this circuit, or a recent sort of, what would I say?
Yeah, I think recent driver. Having recently
driven this circuit. Yeah, there we go. I can English good, I promise. That's what I get paid for. But The circuit itself is amazing to drive. It's so much fun in these GT4 cars because they're lively now. They're not completely glued to the circuit all the time. They do slide around. They move about on the throttle and on the brakes. If you do have iRacing and you have access to these GT4 cars, please do try this out because what a circuit. It's absolutely mega to drive in these cars. Really, really good fun. But what a great unpredictable race we've had so far, Ed. I mean, so many new teams, drivers, colour schemes, cars, all sorts of things have come our way. And I still don't have a clue what even the top 15 is going to be right now.
Yeah, it's truly bonkers. And I think what we were hearing from some of the drivers earlier on, before the racing actually got underway, that any of the top 15 could come through and win the race. I reckon it could be any of the top 20. You know, we've seen some really great races from drivers up and down the grid so far. And even these newcomers as well, especially like Evan Williams, who could be on for a podium on his debut race if he's able to fend off Jake Cranston. He's going to be one to really keep an eye out for, as well as the what we saw earlier. I'm just trying to look through the field now. Daniel Perrin-Smith up inside the top 10, was leading for most of the race but had a long pit stop, which was what's really thrown him outside of contention, unfortunately, for race victories. Jake Cranston has just gotten through on Ayrton Williams, so all of a sudden Ayrton Williams, after talking about how great it was going to be for him to get his first podium, Jake Cranston, well, spoils the party. It was a little bit of a mistake actually from Ayrton, just creeping through, maybe his inexperience in this format. I say that, Jake Cranston as well, he's a newcomer, isn't he, getting through?
Yeah.
I've seen him so many times before on Chaz Draycott Media that it's almost like he's been racing in this championship before, but he is a newcomer to these GT4s and Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. He could be on track for podium on debut. Maybe even a little more as he's chasing down Niels Core and Callum Brandt.
I think that Ayrton Williams has got a bit of damage on the front as well, to be fair, so I don't think the car's completely behaving itself. I'm not sure where that's come from, whether it was one of the curbs or something, but it's definitely had quite the hit on the front, that car, so hopefully
Since
the
pit
curb
lane where
we
saw the incident, he didn't have a fast repair checked.
Maybe, but I don't remember it being damaged when he came out of the pits when he was battling with Nils earlier. Hopefully he's not hit the back of his teammate, because that would be very embarrassing. Also, Jakub Szymanski, I was talking about the cars being fun because they slide around. He says any car slides around when I'm driving it. I'd hate to disagree with you, Jakub. I hope you're well, by the way. Jakub had to back out of the season last season from Spontex CDM Esports. He broke his leg partway through the season, so we hope you've recovered well, Jakub, and hope you're doing all right, mate. We look forward to having you on circuit again at some point in future and in one of our series. Always be a pleasure to have you. Kyle Ridley here at the back of this battle, looking ahead at Toby Johns, Dominic Brennan and Ian Pfeiffer. All very close. The BMWs, McLarens and Mercedes. It's great to see more of the Mercedes on the circuit because I really do love the look of this car. It's a proper chunky GT4 car. It makes a great racket as well, that V8 engine up front, really rumbling its way around the circuit. It's quite spread out now, other than Cranstone and Williams in 3rd and 4th. It's quite spread out inside the top 10. Daniel Perrin-Smith and Lewis Ward are pretty close together, in fact. And I say pretty close together, they may as well melt it down into one car as Lewis goes by on the right. And Daniel Perrin-Smith powerless to do anything that time round, maybe also trying to save a little bit more fuel. Just over 10 minutes left to go here in round 1. And it's going to be a close finale to this race. And again, I reiterate that I have no clue who's going to do what. Dominic Brennan in the pits, Stephen Codman, Ben Chalcraft as well. Some of the first drivers to take pit stop number 2. We'll show you on the left-hand side how many stops everybody has made. There's only a couple of them further down that have made 2. Importantly, Guy Edwards has. Now, he was really flying earlier on. He's had to go through some lap traffic here. He's overtaken John Roberts. That's Dennis Van Beelen in the Aston Martin just behind him as well for position. There's a few drivers here that he could have leapfrogged. And he has gone past Dominic Brennan, Ben Chalcraft, Stephen Codman, but let's not forget some of those guys were recovering from spins earlier as well. Ben's had a spin, Dom had a spin on the very first lap. So we need to keep our eye out on how they all pan out. His teammate, actually, Daniel Mills, 19th at the moment, he's done 2 pit stops, and he's had the shorter of the 2 stops as well. So he is technically the yardstick for where people want to come out onto the circuit at this stage.
There are so many different things that could happen in this race still with about 9 minutes to go. I mean, we could have a BMW 1-2-3 with Taylor Adams, Matt Slight, and I think Carl Ridley, who were all able to make it sort of up to or thereabouts with that well, half-race distance pit stops, if they're able to keep it going, could find themselves with a very, very favourable position come the end of the race, because the pit lane is just so long, and you can see how slow the cars go through there as well.
Yeah.
They lose a boatload of time because the cars that are going past are rushing full chat onto the banking and then around onto the oval as well. They're really able just to properly put the hammer down. That's why that extra pit stop costs so much time around here. So we will see if Taylor Adams is able to make the strategy call work. Genta Sim Racing could be on track for a very impressive 1-2 to start the season, but it all depends on the strategy. And Callum Brandt, what he's doing at the moment is just the only thing he can do is essentially he's committed to his strategy. He needs to do it to the best of his ability. So that is basically full throttle from now until the end. But he's coming to the pits. So that is, well, him making his intentions known for what his strategy is going to be. From the race lead comes Callum Brandt. And we should see Niels Kort breeze on by to inherit the lead of the race.
I'm intrigued.
Reigning champion in the lead of the race for the first time so far this season.
Seventh on the grid he started as well. Jake Cranston started in 11th place. So these guys have worked hard to come through. Paul Goffin, one of the highest movers in the field right now. 12 places up for him from 14th. There's a few drivers behind that have done 2 stops though. Stephen Burns has gained 15 places. Let's not forget about Kyle Ridley in this, because Kyle also pitted very late. He pitted on lap 20, and the rest of these guys pitted on sort of laps 17 and 18. So he and Taylor Adams pitting late. Matt Slight pitted 1 lap before them as well. So it's 3 BMWs here that have tried to extend their strategies. I'm just wondering whether it's going to be enough though. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously there's only one way to find out, and that's just wait and see when they come in the pits. Ayrton Williams has actually got back in front of Jake Cranstow now for 2nd place, so he started to push. Maybe he was saving fuel earlier and now he knows where the limit is at. He knows he might not be able to make it to the end, so he's saying, you know what, stuff it, let's roll, let's crack on and push. This has been a fantastic opener to the season with so many of these new names to us, new colour schemes and new strategy calls as well. People trying a bit of everything around here at Indianapolis tonight. And the field, certainly a big one as well. That's how the field is at the present moment. All spread out around the circuit. Race leader Niels Kort coming around the final corner to go another extra lap. Dan McCauley into the pits in the Mercedes. Dan's going well at the moment as well, inside the top 5. Have to see how that pans out after the final set of stops. Toby Johns with Ian Pfeiffer and Dominic Brennan all having a bit of a scrap here around the first sector. Dom going very slowly there. What on earth's happened here? Wonder if he got a slowdown penalty or something. Ah, yeah, he'd been off the circuit, so I think he's got a slowdown. Let's see. Oh, wow. Whoa, way too hot.
Circuit.
What on earth happened there? I mean, you can hit the ABS quite hard in these cars, can't you? And it just doesn't do anything at all. It just carries on. So
goes straight, which is very counterintuitive to what ABS usually does, which is stop the car pretty much as efficiently as possible. That's why a lot of times in GT racing, the drivers basically put it flat to the floor, use the ABS, and then trail it off as they come into the corner. But in iRacing, you've got to have a little bit more of a deft foot on the brake pedal to keep it just on the verge of triggering the ABS without actually stepping over that threshold.
Yeah, you've got to be mighty careful with it. So here is Niels Kort and Ayrton Williams in the Satellite Racing Blue Aston Martins. Lovely to see a teammate for Niels Kort this season. He was technically working with... Oh, I thought he'd run wide. I keep forgetting that that's where the pit entry is. Oh, my word.
There's no lines, is there, on the way into the pit
there's
lane?
Absolutely zero. It just looks like they're just piling it off the circuit. It's ridiculous. Jake Cranstow's carried on, by the way, in the Porsche. So the Masters of Torque driver is certainly master of fuel saving at the moment. 5 minutes to go. And Jake will go an extra lap over these guys. Taylor Adams now just behind him in the BMW. He's made the most of this so far. I was going to say...
Adams made it, I think, 20 laps, didn't he? He came in on lap 20, so he made it about 18 full laps.
Yeah.
So if you were looking at it, he can basically run into a lap 39, which is going to be close for that to be the final lap.
That's going to be very close for Taylor. He could make this work, though, I think, because he stayed out on circuit way over half an hour. So Fingers crossed for him. See whether he makes it work. Same with Kyle Ridley as well in the other BMW. He's got Callum Brandt to think about, though. Callum's done both of his stops, and he is ahead of Niels Cornet and Williams. That's important. So he's made that strategy work. Jamie Pounder is just coming down the start-finish straight now and heading into turn 1. He's got another pit stop to do just yet. We'll show you on the left-hand side who has pitted twice and who hasn't, so you get an idea of it. Callum Brandt is the highest-placed driver that has done, but Kyle Ridley, Matt Slight and Taylor Adams, the 3 cars in front of him, we don't think will have to pit again. Daniel Parron-Smith has had a drama here, I'm afraid. There's, contact with Dennis Van Beelen. That's the second time. And then there's more contact on the exit as well. The car just goes completely backwards. It's a real shame that for Daniel Parron-Smith, because he was exemplary in qualifying and in the first part of the race. It's all fallen apart a little bit since then, not always really through any fault of his own, just a few racing incidents here and there, just people running out of space. But we've only got 3.5 minutes left. And Jake Cranstone, well, he's being caught by Taylor Adams right now. Taylor is right with him. That in between the two of them is Toby Ward in the boosted Motorsport Porsche. Toby will, I'm sure, move over in a minute when he realises what's going on. And it's these guys trying to put a lap on him. Toby is quick, though. He's done a few bits in real life as well, if I remember rightly. As down the inside, Taylor forced to make a move rather than going past him easily, so he's forced to take a compromised line. But this is the battle for the lead right now, and I'm wondering whether Jake Cranstone has enough to make it to the end. I'm not sure he does, but he did sit behind those Aston Martins for a while. And look, he's slow down the straight.
He's really saving the fuel as much as he can do. You can see he's doing everything he can do.
Is he out? Has he run out?
I don't think he's run out. I think what he's trying to do is he realises now by pitting he loses more time than if he say he does slower lap times. If he keeps it to around about 1 minute 36, he might be able to save enough fuel to keep it going, but he's going to be really slow, just trying to save as much fuel as possible. He's going to lose out here to potentially Matt Slight or Kyle Ridley even, but he's got a lot of time to him. Look, he's got around about 10 seconds to Matt Slight in behind. This could be Cranston trying for a podium, because then in behind Matt Slight, he's got, nearly 25 seconds to Callum Brandt, and he can afford to give that up over the next 2 minutes.
I was wondering for a second there whether he was running out and he was just trying to make sure that he made it back to the pits. But we'll have 2 laps to go then. Taylor Adams leads the way. Jake Cranstone second. Then Matt Slight, Callum Brandt, Kyle Ridley in 5th place after starting 15th on the grid. What a drive he's having. Niels Kors 6th. Then Dan McCauley, Daniel Mills, Ayrton Williams, and then Rob Sharp. Look at that. Lewis Ward down in 12th position in this race. 2-time champion of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Behind Guy Edwards at this point. And ahead of Lee Berridge as well. Daniel Parron-Smith still hanging in there. He's in 14th. He's got Ben Idris Abdullahi behind him, and then Dennis Van Beelen. This has been a fantastic introduction to a number of these drivers and teams, and a great start to the campaign here in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Another shout to the sponsors. Thanks very much to Orris Digital, Crockery Direct and Derbyshire Holiday Homes. Very appreciative of the support as always. It's great to have them on board. One more lap after this then, Ed, for our race leader Taylor Adams, while we've got battles all the way up and down still.
It looks like we will make it to lap 39. Lewis Ward won't want to make it any more laps in behind Guy Edwards if he can help it. Just can't find a way through at this moment in time. It's all about just trying to pick your mark. And again, he's looking to the inside here, but because it's such a tight line, he has to slow down a lot more to make the corner stick. Whereas that wider line, it opens up an avenue, but Guy Edwards then able to carry more speed out of the corner. You can see that's helped him with a bit more of a buffer. There's Ben Idris Abdullahi. This is in the first sector, I think, just coming out of turn 1, and there's quite a lot of, we can see the tyre marks going backwards into the barrier. We'll just see what's happened here. Oh my word! And he's just judging a little bit of space.
I think that's the second Chicane Online racing car. Jake Cranstone's pitting. Jake Cranstone is not able to make it to the end. Unfortunately, the timing hasn't worked out for him. We've got Taylor Adams on the final lap of the race, though. Taylor's making this work. Matt Slight is also making this work in the BMW. Where is Kyle Ridley? He's also on the final lap without pitting a second time. So 3 of the BMWs have gone great guns on the strategy call. He's gone a little bit deep into turn 1, though. Callum Brandt has made it work in the McLaren as well. Not quite the same strategy as those boys. But I tell you, that middle stint for Callum, oh so important. He underfueled it a little bit, disappeared over the horizon, flat chat, and then took a really short final stop as well. So, no, sorry, took a bit of a longer stop at the end. I do apologise. But this is going to be one hell of a way to start things. I remember when Regenta first joined us in the winter tour at the end of 2023, and we thought, wow, these boys are quick. These boys know what they're doing. And they're certainly shown us that they still know now, don't they, Ed?
They really do. After all we said about the newcomers, it's the familiar face of Taylor Adams who's going to come out on top for the first race of this 5th season of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge.
Taylor Adams wins at Indianapolis. A brilliant way to start the season for him and that BMW M4 for Regenta Sim Racing. And the cherry on top is going to be the fact that it's a 1-2 for the team on their first outing in this new car. What a great drive by both of them to make that strategy call work. That is really gutsy stuff. And what a brilliant return to the series this is going to be for Callum Brandt in the McLaren as well. Welcome back, Callum. We've missed having him in the top few positions, and he's done a great job there to take the podium spot. Kyle Ridley as well, working really hard on the strategy. He comes home in 4th position, and it's reigning champion Nils Kaur in 5th. Is Dan McCauley going to beat Jake Cranstone to the line? It looks like it. Jake's got the slipstream, but Dan gets 6th position. Daniel Mills just behind them for RD Simsport. Ayrton Williams, a great drive for him on his debut, and Rob Sharp will complete the top 10 places. Guy Edwards and Lewis Ward did separate slightly a little bit further back as they cross the line. Looks like Lewis had to be a bit careful on the fuel. Still some battles going on though in the mid-pack here though, Ed, before the race is over.
Yeah, Dominic Brennan there, up ahead of Ben Childcraft. Paul Goffin in 20th, hanging on to that final points scoring position for Sim Racing Magazine Yellow. I think he'll be able just to hold on to it, but you can see Jamie Pounder really stamping on that loud pedal, coming out onto the banking as over the line. I think was that a little bit of fuel running out maybe for Dominic Brennan.
Brennan ran out of fuel but just beat Ben Chalcraft to the line there. That was mighty close between those two. But what an amazing first race of the season here in the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. I don't think we could have asked for any more than that. Fuel strategies all over the place, pit stops and all sorts in terms of a little bit of contact here and there, some epic battles, and a complete surprise in terms of victories and finishing positions overall. Amazing.
Very impressive. Very, very impressive indeed to see all those drivers out there really battling hard with one another, but just about making it work. Again, a wonderful strategy call there from Regenta Sim Racing to make it a 1-2 though. Perfectly done.
What a great start to their campaign. So Taylor Adams and Matt Slight, 1st and 2nd for Regenta Sim Racing, with Callum Brandt completing the podium for RD Simsport. Kyle Ridley finishes 4th with Nils Kaur rounding out the top 5. Dan McCauley finishes in 6th place, just ahead of Jake Cranstone. Next up was Daniel Mills in 8th place, Ayrton Williams in 9th, and then completing the top 10. Rob Sharp on his first drive for the season. Well, I say that like it wasn't everybody else's. I do apologise. Guy Edwards next up in 11th, Lewis Ward in 12th, ahead of Lee Berridge. A good drive for Lee, with Daniel Parron-Smith eventually in 14th, but definitely one to watch for the season. Dennis Van Beelen 15th, Toby Johns in 16th, Ian Pfeiffer and Ben Chalcraft 17th and 18th. 19th in the end was Dominic Brennan, and Paul Goffin completes the point scorers in the first round of the championship. Lots of the newcomers getting points on their debuts as well. Jamie Pounder finishes in 21st with Stephen Codman behind him, then Tom Stanley, Ben Idris Abdullahi, Toby Ward in 25th, and then the other cars that were a lap down were Stephen Burns, Mark Johnson and Chris Jennings, Rob Sutherland, Martin Kenyon and John Roberts, and then the drivers that were more laps down were Simon Price, 2 laps down, Simon Povey did not finish the race, neither did John Barnes and Andy Marston. Well, I don't know about you, Ed, but I think that was an absolute corker. Great way to start the championship, as we've said. So much going on all throughout the field, and we'll hopefully have some lovely interviews to do in just a sec.
We've got quite a few drivers lining up for a chat with us, but what a start to the season that was. An amazing moment, wasn't it? Again, we have seen sometimes these strategy calls come off, and it was Regenta Sim Racing and particularly Taylor Adams that really made it work.
Taylor, welcome to the booth, my friend. You must be absolute that, mate. I know that the second half of last season was difficult for you and for Matt as well, but what a great way to come back into this one. A win and a 1-2 to go with it as well.
Yeah, first of all, apologies if you hear my fan. I can't reach the off button.
We
so
don't care, mate. Don't you worry, mate. I'm sure it's absolutely boiling.
Oh, yeah, it's roasting. Yeah, that was really good fun. It was mentally draining as well, but I knew that the pit lane was ridiculously long here, so if you could do a one-stop, it would be the way to go. Just because it was like 40 seconds for a splash at the end, so even if you were like a second and a bit at lap slower, you'd still be better off. So I just practiced and got down to the number you needed, and then in the final stint I massively oversaved. Saw that I had the timer said 10 minutes of fuel left, or like 10 extra minutes of fuel, so I thought, oh, I'll go for it. And then suddenly it was 5 minutes less than the time left, and then I had to massively save again. It was, I don't trust my fuel thing anymore, my fuel widget. That was stressful as. But I'm really pleased with the 1-2.
And I was going to say, what was the circuit like for you guys tonight? Because when we tested it for this season, I found it to be an absolute riot of a track in these cars, because they move around a lot, don't they, now, these GT4s? They're a bit more lively and a bit more floaty on the surface. It seems to be a lot more fun to drive them.
Yeah, it's a really fun track. I'm not very good through the penultimate corner, that left-hander. I'm awful through there.
Oh, me too.
But other than that, it's great fun. And I think it was a bit cooler than what I'd practiced with. I think it was a bit more cloudy than I'd expected.
Right.
So it meant that the tyres stayed under me a bit better for the race. So it made it, it made the race a bit easier in that sense, because I was well off the pace in practice with 50% left front tyre left and stuff.
Well, I was going to say, talking of the pace, I mean, the qualifying was absolutely ridiculous. I think there was like 28 drivers covered by a second. Did you expect it to be anything like that when we announced the entry list for the series?
Well, when I looked through people's iRatings and I did a bit of iRacing stalking to see what people's iRatings were, and I thought, this is going to be hard. This season's going to be so hard. And then in the hosted practice sessions I'd done with other people, it seemed ridiculously close. And then, mental, crazy close.
And that's what we want, isn't it, really? I mean, it's been a fantastic field for the last few seasons, but it's just ramped up in strength incredibly this time round, and it's very exciting to see. We go to Long Beach next time round for round 2 of the series. It's our first ever street circuit race in the SRM GT4 Challenge. How are you feeling about going there?
Oh, I'm really looking forward to it. I know Matt's looking forward to it. It's his favourite track.
Oh, but, get it.
It is good fun. I just need to not hit the walls in practice as much. So I think it'll be a bit chaotic. I think possibly. Well, if something goes wrong, it'll be exciting, shall we say?
Definitely. It's not easy in these cars, but it's a lot of fun. Well done, Taylor. That was a fantastic first race for the season. The perfect way to get it done. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before you go?
So I think my girlfriend and my parents are watching, so hello to them. And obviously a big thanks to you guys for putting on such an amazing series, and also to everyone that I raced against tonight. They were very clean, everyone was very sensible, and also shout out to Matt for helping me find a bit of pace here and there.
Nicely said. Well, great to speak to you as always, Taylor. Well done for the perfect start to the season, and we'll see you at Long Beach. Have a good one.
Thank you very much. See you then.
Cheers. Fantastic stuff, Ed. Race winner Taylor Adams. We'll jump straight in, actually, and we'll drag in his teammate Matt Slight. Completes the 1-2 for Regenta Sim Racing. Matt, you must also be over the moon, mate, because the strategy worked perfectly, and you guys have got an amazing advantage in the team's championship now.
Oh, it was probably the best opening we could have, really. I mean, I got pole, which I wasn't really expecting, but I took it, and then shout out to Taylor for coming up with the strategy and sticking to it, because that's what got us this result today. So
I was going to say, that first stint for you didn't go perfectly. I mean, a couple of laps in, you're in 9th position after starting on pole, but was that part of the plan, just sort of keeping the pace a little bit subdued to make sure you hit that fuel number?
Yeah, it was all about hitting that fuel number. I think Taylor and I were both struggling a little bit in the opening few laps to get to what we wanted. But after a few laps, it got a bit easier. But obviously, by that point, like you said, a lot of people managed to, just stuff up my inside, because I was having to lift so early to try and hit the number. But got it in the end, and I had to come in a lap earlier than Tay because of just I couldn't hit the number as soon as he did, but yeah, managed to pull it off in the end.
We've just heard as well from your teammate that you're a bit of a fan of the next round of the championship when we go to Long Beach. What's the connection to that?
No, it just seems like I've always gone well around there. Like whenever Taylor and I've raced around there, it's always been somewhere that I always seem to have a little bit of won't mind me saying it, a bit of an edge on him. And I'm hoping for another good result there.
Well, we certainly hope that it goes your way, Matt. It's a pleasure to speak to you again, buddy. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before you go?
Yeah, just shout out to Taylor. It's great result for us tonight, and sure we'll have some celebratory words after this. So yeah,
cracking stuff. Well, nicely done, Matt. It was lovely to see a 1-2 this early on in the season, and we hope to see you again very, very soon in the commentary box. Have a good one.
Yeah, speak to you soon. Thanks both.
Cheers. Well, Ed, what a fantastic 1-2 that is to get the championship underway. I mean, those guys, professional as ever, made a strategy call. It's what we've seen them do before. It's how they win races, isn't it, Regenta?
Yeah, they can't ask for anything more. Obviously, it was great to see Matt's get pole position. He wasn't able to convert it to the race victory, but still getting up into second place with your teammate up ahead of you, making it a 1-2. It's a really, really great way to start your campaign, isn't it? So hopefully we'll see a little bit more of the same from them, a bit more racing as well, and maybe if it becomes a fight between the two of them for a championship. We always love it, don't we, when teammates come tussling together.
Absolutely, and it's great to have this guy back as well. Callum Brandt joins us in the box. Callum, welcome back to the series, mate. We hope you've been well. It's been a hell of a night, really, for fuel strategies and all sorts, but what a great result to get your campaign underway as well, a podium finish.
Yeah, a little bit good. I thought I was going to be on for a win at one bit, but fair play to Taylor and Matt. They did what I couldn't. I tried in the first stint and got to the box and realised it wasn't going to be on. So, good start to the season, yeah.
And what was it like being back on a grid with some of these guys that you've raced with so much in the past and so closely with? Because they were sort of interspersed amongst newcomers, weren't they? So I'm not sure if you got a good chance to scrap with all of them.
No, I didn't, to be honest. I normally was scrapping with sort of Lewis and Simon, and we're all spread out because the field was so close, certainly in qualifying. But it's always been sort of a pleasure when you come back to the league because it's always so clean and fair and everyone gives you space. And yeah, it's just great fun. So yeah, really pleased to be back.
Well, that's what we want. We want people to be enjoying it, and it's glad to hear that you are. We go to Long Beach next time round, which is always lively. What do you make of that?
I probably done one race there, so tight and twisty. Probably have to do a bit of practice to get up to speed on that. But yeah, I think pass will be hard. So yeah, probably another strategy game and see how that one plays out. Don't know if that'll be a one-stopper on it. I don't know yet. So
we'll have to.
But yeah, it'll be good fun.
Long straight there, so I imagine it may be. You don't know. It could be. We'll have to see. There's a few long straights, I guess, because of the back straight as well. But it's going to be all about survival, I reckon, when we go to Long Beach. But yeah, like I say, one way to find out. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before you go, Callum?
Just you guys in the box. I'll be looking forward to watching the stream back in a little bit, and just all the guys at RD for tuning in and racing, Dan, Rob, and Guy. So yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you very much, Callum. Great to speak to you again, mate. Lovely to have you back in the series, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Now, what I want to do, Ed, just very quickly, I'll be absolutely rapid with this one because we don't normally do 4 interviews. However, Kyle Ridley was right on the money to make that strategy call work, and it's very early in the morning where he is, so we can leave him to have a potential lie-in. Kyle, welcome to the box, mate. You must be, again, buzzing like the rest of them there because what a strong field we have this season. To go from 15th on the grid to finishing 4th, that's a hell of a drive, mate.
Yeah, the field has stepped up a notch since I was last here. Like, big props to everybody. I was half a second off pole and started 15th, so that tells you a lot about the quality of the field.
It absolutely does. And what was it like trying to sort of make that strategy work tonight? Because it didn't look easy.
No, I mean, if you've seen the price of fuel, you gotta. Nah, it was tough. I saw Matt and his teammate doing it in practice, and I've done it in my own practice. I was like, I see the game, so I tried it. Such a long pit delta as well, like transit time. So I gave it a go, and I was like, I need to save 20 laps on the first stint when everyone's all bunched up, and then I can go harder to the next stint. And it worked. Unfortunately, I did have a little incident that cost me 10 seconds, which then put me in the clutches of Callum. So could have been P3, but I'm still happy with the P4. You know, gaining 11 spots in a field like this isn't something to take lightly, so I'm pretty happy with it.
I was going to say it was a race of sort of two parts for you, wasn't it? A few little sort of step backs or setbacks, I should say, but then obviously the success of the actual result in the end. It must be quite an emotional roller coaster with races like this.
It is. I mean, I was in Discord with Cranston and Birds. It's like, hey, I'm just going to shut up now and just focus on the numbers and get what I was hoping at the time, a top 10, top 5, but didn't realize how many people were not doing the one stop, and it ended up being P4. So definitely a surprise.
Yes, indeed, but still, great to see you get that result, Kyle, and we hopefully look forward to seeing you right up there again at the sharp end. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before you go?
Yeah, I want to thank SRM for all the hosting and stuff, yourself and Ed for the commentary, and I want to thank Stephen Burns for the delivery. How to Mend a Broken Part was our theme today with the Bee Gees, and we'll have many others throughout the season. And
I see, that's what it is.
Yes, and if so one of us win a race, we might see Mr. Blobby. So I was gonna.
Oh, if you do, I'm just going to kick you out.
It's out as a winner.
Yeah. Well, you never know. We'll see you soon, though, Kyle. Great to speak to you again, mate. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Kyle Ridley's always a great character to have around, isn't he, Ed? An absolute star. It was wonderful to have him in the Winter Tour and then obviously last season as well. And I mean, we've got a grid full of them, haven't we, this season? It's just a massively talented grid. Wow.
Yeah, it's really impressive, isn't it, just to see the level that keeps increasing time on time over the seasons that have gone past. And it makes my decision to call it quits at the end of season 1, I think, all the more of a smart one, because flipping heck, these boys now are rapid. So hopefully they'll continue that on over the course of, well, the rest of this 5th season. But I'll tell you what, Chaz, I've really missed this, and it's so good to be back.
It really is, and especially in such a dramatic way as well, with so many drivers that could have potentially won that race, and there's still a huge unknown factor as well, so we really look forward to the next round of the championship. But that's all for tonight from the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. Thanks once again to Orris Digital, Crockery Direct and Derbyshire Holiday Homes, the championship sponsors. Thanks also to Ed May, and thanks everybody for watching. It's been an absolute joy, but we'll see you in a week's time when we head to Long Beach and stay in the United States for another exciting round of the Sim Racing Magazine GT4 Challenge. We'll see you then. 4 French drivers at the French Grand Prix trying to win this on the final lap. The 3 wide again, Guillaume down the inside. Guillaume moves across, they're both in front of Milan and Pouget.
Before you know it, we find ourselves here in the very final race of the competition. And then they see truck racing and they think, this is crazy, you know, these are 5-ton machines, 1,200 horsepower brake.
Oh, look at that switchback. Oh, he's been mugged and a drift is going off.
Ben Gregory now, I love this. 10.5 minutes gone. Senna Lanson tries to go for the race lead.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.